Yo, what is up guys? This is Pedro here, and in today's video I will be talking about why I think Washington football team fans should not overlook second-year Washington football team linebacker Khaleke Hudson, and why I think he's poised for a big second year. So if you guys are new, make sure to subscribe for Washington and NFL content. Also hit that like button, it helps out a ton. So let's get right into the video. So as most of you guys know, the Washington football team drafted Khaleke Hudson in the 5th round of the 2020 NFL draft. He's 23 years old, about 6 foot, 220 pounds, and ran a 4.5 40-yard dash. And he was mostly a special teams guy in his rookie year, especially early on, and played pretty well on special teams. I thought he was one of their better special teams players, but he did end up starting 2 games for the Washington football team as a linebacker during the season, especially after Kevin Pierre-Louis went down. And I thought he played pretty well, especially in that Seahawks game where he had to come in and start. Made a couple of big plays, made a huge tackle for loss that resulted in a 4-yard loss, and set up the Washington football team really well. And so far in minicamp and OTAs, I've been hearing he's been turning heads. He's gotten a couple of interceptions, one off of Fitzpatrick and one off of another quarterback, and that's all we know of. Could have had more, and he's looking pretty good. And he's been playing 2 different positions, linebacker and also the big nickel position that Cameron Curl played early on last year before he switched over to strong safety when Landon Collins went hurt. And he's versatile because coming out of college he was a safety / linebacker. Look at his stats in college. He was mostly he started off more as a DB, started off as a safety. His second year was his biggest year as a safety. He played in 13 games, 77 tackles, 16 for a loss, 7.5 sacks, and 2 interceptions. But obviously his role changed a lot in his junior and senior seasons. And in his senior season, played in 13 games, had over 100 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and 1.5 sacks. And this season, like you guys saw earlier, his stats: played in 16 games, only started 2 of them, had 14 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and played solid in coverage. It's a small sample size, but I think he allowed a 70 pass rating. But I've been hearing great things from the coaching staff and players. Ron Rivera has brought him up a few different times as a possible big contributor in his second year. And one thing that Ron Rivera talks about a lot is positional versatility, flexibility, and that's what Khaleke Hudson brings. Like I said, can play linebacker, but also can play that safety position. I don't think he's going to play safety here, but he can play that big nickel, which is a position that they value, and that's what Cameron Curl played last year. And here's a quote from him. He talked about it a couple weeks ago. I'll read it here. Rivera also spoke about the Buffalo nickel, aka Big Nickel, in Jack Del Rio's defense. A bigger DB who can shift down in the box but can also drop back in the post. Last year was played primarily by Cameron Curl. This year, Rivera said, a guy that we're looking at is Khaleke Hudson. He's a guy that could do that. And it's funny because we talked about it with Landon Collins. Landon plays it already because anytime you change and shift in motion, you see Landon come down. So I'm excited to see what Khaleke Hudson can do. I think he's going to be able to play a little bit of linebacker, probably at that will spot. I don't know if he can be a starter just yet because he is a little small for a linebacker. They have him listed right now at 220, so who knows if he put on weight during the offseason. If he did, then that's great. If not, I think if he wants to switch to a full-time linebacker position where he's the starting will linebacker, he's probably going to have to gain, get up to like 240 or, upper 230s. But, I still think he's going to be able to play some linebacker, but it is looking like he's going to play some Buffalo nickel. He has got some good speed, good physicality. And he didn't. Here's the thing about Khaleke Hudson that I also think people need to realize: he didn't get barely any development last year, especially in the offseason compared to rookies in other years, because he had no mini camp, had no OTAs, had a limited amount of training camp, no preseason, so they couldn't put him out there early, especially on defense. So I think this year, with a full off season, with mini camp, OTAs, training camp, I really think he's going to be able to develop a lot, and he might play some Buffalo nickel. Especially if they're saying this might mean that Landon Collins might not be ready for the start of the season, and if he's on the PUP list, then maybe you have Khaleke Hudson starting at that Buffalo nickel position, rotating him in there, and also putting him in as a linebacker in some situations. Here's a pick from him, and I'm not sure, I think this was OTAs, but you guys see he makes a nice one-handed interception in coverage, and probably was playing that Buffalo nickel position. You guys see that. I'll show it to you guys again one more time. I like his upside a lot. That's a really, really nice interception right there by the second-year player. Let's hope he can continue to develop. He's got good range, really good tackler, especially on special teams, and it's not too shabby as a block shedder. And we'll see if he does put on some muscle, put on some more weight. I think he could be their starting will linebacker, and ideally, I don't think it's going to be week 1, but maybe at the end of the season, or at the end of at the start of next season, you could have a starting linebacker trio of Jamin Davis at middle linebacker, Cole Holcomb at Sam, and Khaleke Hudson at will. But what I think will happen is he'll start out as a at Buffalo nickel, and playing coverage, and occasionally come in as a linebacker. I'm really, really excited to see what he can do this year, because I think he's going to have a big jump in his second year in production, and especially playing time, because didn't get much last year. Really only got those 2 starts, and that was it. And he played pretty well, especially in that Seahawks start. So I want to hear from you guys. Do you think Khaleke Hudson can take that next step in his second year? And where do you think he's going to play? Do you think he's going to play at linebacker? Do you think he's going to be, play that Buffalo nickel position? Or do you think he's just going to stick at special teams? And this is an underrated, really underrated player. And if he can turn out to be a good linebacker, this is going to be huge for Washington, because even with drafting Jamin Davis, I still think linebacker is one of our weaker positions, especially depth. I think he's going to be able to come in and provide some good snaps on defense at the linebacker position and the Buffalo nickel. Let me know down below in the comments what you guys think, and let me know what 3 linebackers you think will start. Who's going to start at Mike linebacker, who's going to start at Will, and who's going to start at Sam. Thank you guys for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe if you guys are new, and turn on those notifications so you never miss a video. Peace, guys.